the atrocities that African Americans have been through, I'm surprised we are this peaceful. Yeah. Surprised we are this peaceful to others. We're just as violent to each other. But the atrocities that have happened to African Americans, that's why I believe African Americans are the strongest motherfuckers on the planet. Because the shit that they've gone through, and they're still around, educated, building universities, inventing damn near everything in America, it's unreal. GPS is a black woman. 3D imaging is a black woman. Laser eye surgery is a black woman. Escalators a black inventor. Elevators a black inventor. The roller coaster is Granville T. Woods. Roller coaster, everything.
Internet, the cell phone.
The cell phone. I was just watching the thing on the cell phone. Our video games is Jerry Lawson in Silicon Valley. They try not to mention him, but he's the reason why we have Xbox, Atari. He did the first, before Atari, the F1 series. Jerry Lawson, a black dude who invented home videos. Super Soaker, Lonnie Jackson. It just goes on. Sanitary napkins. It's a woman. Our ADT, our security system, is a black woman in Queens. Mary Van Brighton in 1966. She invented the home security. You talking about open heart surgery? Daniel Hale. Plasma, Charles Drew. We can keep going. Surgical equipment, black people inventing, just constantly inventing, and they took everything and lied. But now things are coming into the light with all these black inventors. And black people are still thriving. Black women have the highest degrees in America.
We've been told a polished story about progress. We've been shown skyscrapers, hospitals, technology, global culture, and political freedom as if they rose naturally from a system that always worked the way it was supposed to. What hasn't been shown to us is how much of that progress was pushed forward by black people while being denied education, denied capital, denied patents, denied safety, and denied basic humanity. The truth is, black people didn't just contribute to the modern world. Our people helped transform it in ways that actually saved lives, influenced culture, expanded rights, and improved daily living across the globe. And they did it under conditions designed to crush them, while enslaved, while segregated, while locked out of institutions that later claimed credit for their breakthroughs, while courts refused to protect their intellectual property, while violence enforced silence. Across medicine, black innovators developed life-saving techniques that reshaped surgery and blood preservation. Across engineering, black inventors improved transportation systems, safety mechanisms, and communication technologies that millions rely on daily. Across agriculture, black scientists repaired soil and strengthened food systems. Across culture, black artists built the musical foundations of the modern world. Across politics and civil rights, black leaders forced entire nations to confront hypocrisy and move closer to democracy. Much of this was buried, and still, black people kept producing, kept graduating, kept inventing, kept leading movements that expanded freedom not just for themselves, but for everyone. This is the untold story of Black brilliance. In this video, we're going to look at all the inventions, the movements, the breakthroughs, and the global shifts that would not exist without black minds and black courage. Today, we reclaim the narrative and shine a light on the true architects of innovation and resilience. Let's begin. The year is 1324. A golden sunrise breaks over the Sahara as a colossal caravan winds its way toward Cairo. Dust swirls around thousands of travelers, soldiers in vibrant robes, merchants, scholars, and slaves, all accompanying the wealthiest ruler on the planet. At the center rides Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali, clad in fine silk and holding a gleaming gold staff. In this moment, the medieval world is about to discover a truth long known in Africa. A great civilization led by a black king is shining more brightly than any other on earth. When Mansa Musa steps foot in Cairo, locals stare in awe. His caravan has brought so much gold that the metal's value will plummet in Egypt for years. But Musa does not come merely to display riches. He carries something far more enduring. He is on a holy pilgrimage to Mecca, and along the way he shares Mali's prosperity. He spends lavishly in markets, gives generously to the poor, and endows grand mosques and schools. Camel after camel unloads gold dust into the economies of North Africa and the Middle East, a gesture of goodwill so extraordinary that it enters folklore. The name of Mansa Musa spreads across continents, reaching Europe where mapmakers will draw his likeness on the Catalan Atlas of 1375, a black king enthroned in majesty holding a nugget of gold. In a world still recovering from the Dark Ages, Mali's empire stands as a beacon of learning and wealth. As Musa's caravan presses on, its legacy grows behind it. At Timbuktu, one of Mali's thriving cities, Musa's reign triggers an outpouring of knowledge. Architects and scholars from as far as Cairo and Baghdad arrive at his invitation. In Timbuktu, Musa funds universities and libraries that attract students from across the Islamic world. Imagine the bustling courtyards of Sankore University in the 14th century, rows of young scholars in white robes studying mathematics, astronomy, law, and medicine, all under the tutelage of learned black professors. Thousands of manuscripts are copied and preserved on science, literature, and history. This rich intellectual life will leave echoes that survive to this day in treasured archives of West Africa. Under Musa's patronage, Timbuktu becomes known as the City of 333 Saints, a revered center of learning and culture in an age when few cities anywhere rival its libraries. While in Europe many kings wage war and hoard power, Mansa Musa does something arguably more positive. He transforms his wealth into an engine for education and faith. The advancement of knowledge under his leadership has ripple effects that will enrich civilizations far beyond his empire's borders. But the story of black achievement begins even earlier, thousands of years before Mali, on the banks of the Nile. Here, in ancient Egypt around 2600 BCE, lived Imhotep, a black genius often called the world's first recorded polymath. By torchlight in Pharaoh Djoser's court, Imhotep rises from lowly origins to become vizier, chief advisor, thanks to an intellect that astonishes all. By day, he sketches revolutionary designs in the sand, a pyramid of stone composed of 6 mastaba steps reaching 200 feet high. This will be the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, humanity's first monumental stone building, conceived and overseen by Imhotep. When it is completed, people gaze up at this towering marvel and whisper that Imhotep must be touched by the divine. By night, Imhotep tends to the sick, applying herbal remedies and surgical techniques so advanced that later generations will deem him the god of medicine. Indeed, Imhotep's medical practices are so far ahead of their time that 2,000 years later, the Greeks will revere him as the equal of Asclepius, their own deity of healing. In a world where myth often obscures reality, the true story shines. An ancient African architect-physician helped lay the foundations of 2 pillars of civilization, medicine and engineering, long before similar strides were made in Europe. Egypt is just one glorious chapter. Farther south, across the vastness of the African continent, other societies flourish. In the highlands of Ethiopia, rulers of the kingdom of Aksum in the 4th century CE build towering obelisks and become the first African nation to adopt Christianity, radiating faith and written literature across East Africa. Along the Niger River, the city of Geno, established around 250 BCE, becomes a vibrant trading hub where blacksmiths cast elegant iron tools at a time when much of Europe still uses stone. In the lands of the Yoruba present-day Nigeria, mathematicians devised a sophisticated base 20 number system requiring complex subtraction, impressing modern scholars with its abstract logic. And in Central Africa, even before the Common Era, engineers around the Great Lakes region forged carbon steel at temperatures higher than any achieved in ancient Rome. In the 12th century, in what is now Zimbabwe, a Shona civilization raises imposing stone cities. The ruins of Great Zimbabwe include a massive curved wall, 250 meters long and built from 15,000 tons of granite, constructed without mortar, an architectural triumph that astonishes later European explorers. All these achievements share a common origin. They were conceived by black innovators and leaders, too often absent from mainstream history books. By the late Middle Ages, Africa's prosperity and know-how are impossible to ignore. Trade routes crisscross the continent, ferrying not only gold and salt, but ideas and inventions. African sailors navigate the Indian Ocean monsoons to trade with Arabia and India. West African mariners build sturdy canoes and even 100-foot-long ships capable of carrying 80 tons of cargo. There are tantalizing hints that African voyagers may have reached the Americas and China before Europeans, riding favorable Atlantic currents and leaving traces in botanical similarities and oral legends. Whether or not those transoceanic journeys occurred, the message is clear. African ingenuity was charting the seas and the stars when other parts of the world still thought such feats impossible. On nights in the Sahel, Malian and Dogon stargazers mapped the heavens with astounding precision. The Dogon, steeped in cosmic knowledge, accurately describe invisible stars like Sirius B centuries before Western astronomers confirm its existence. Though outsiders later struggle to credit this to Africans, spinning tales of alien teachers, the reality is a testament to generations of careful observation and deep scientific tradition on the continent. In this golden age of Black history, knowledge and prosperity are not weapons of conquest, but gifts to be shared. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage itself embodies this ethos. Rather than waging war, he spreads wealth, builds relationships between kingdoms, and elevates scholarship. While Mongol hordes or European crusaders leave trails of destruction, Musa's legacy is measured in the mosques, schools, and libraries he left in his wake. The contrast is certainly striking. By the time Mansa Musa returns to Mali, his fame is immortal. He dies in 1337, leaving an empire rich not only in material wealth but in culture and intellect. By then, the foundation was already laid. Black brilliance has lit the fuse of human advancement, but darker times lie ahead when that brilliance will be tested by unimaginable adversity, only to emerge stronger and more triumphant. Midnight, August 1791. In the dense forests of a French Caribbean colony called Saint-Domingue, drums pound in a voodoo ceremony as enslaved Black men and women gather under the cover of darkness. They share a common desperate purpose: revolution. Flames from torches reveal determined faces slick with sweat. A charismatic leader, Toussaint Louverture, stands among them, urging unity. The air itself crackles with tension and hope. Within hours, across the colony's northern plain, plantations are burning. The Haitian Revolution has begun. This is no ordinary revolt, but the only successful slave uprising in world history, one that will defeat mighty European empires and give birth to the first free Black republic. As dawn breaks, columns of smoke rise against the tropical sky. Men and women who were property yesterday are now soldiers of liberty, fighting not just for themselves, but for the very idea of universal human rights. For over a decade, battles rage across Haiti. Toussaint Louverture, himself a formerly enslaved coachman with remarkable military and diplomatic skill, outmaneuvers French, Spanish, and British forces in turn. Time and again, the seemingly weaker Black rebels defeat professional armies sent to re-enslave them. In 1793, faced with stubborn resistance, revolutionary France reluctantly abolishes slavery in its colonies, hoping to win back the fighters' allegiance. But when Napoleon Bonaparte seizes power in France, he cannot abide a successful Black-led democracy. In 1802, he sends an armada to restore white rule and slavery in Saint-Domingue. The conflict that follows is epic and merciless. The Black revolutionaries, now led by generals like Jean-Jacques Dessalines, refuse to yield. They burn crops in a scorched earth strategy, fight guerrilla battles in the mountains, and even endure betrayal. Toussaint himself is captured through treachery and sent to die in a French dungeon, yet the revolution lives on. At the final Battle of Vertières in November 1803, Dessalines' forces decisively defeat the French troops. The impossible dream becomes reality. On January 1, 1804, Dessalines declares Haiti an independent nation, the first country ever founded by former slaves. Joyous shouts of freedom echo from the hills to the sea. Against all odds, a Black people have overthrown the shackles of one of the richest colonial powers on earth. The birth of Haiti sends shockwaves around the world. In one bold stroke, Black freedom fighters did what no white-led rebellion of the era accomplished. They extended the Enlightenment's promise of liberty to all. Their victory deals a crushing blow to slavery's legitimacy and inspires enslaved and colonized peoples everywhere. Napoleon, humiliated and facing mounting costs, abandons his dreams of a new world empire. He sells the vast Louisiana territory to the United States in 1803 to recoup losses. An unintended gift from Haiti that doubles the size of the U.S. More quietly, in parlors and parliaments from London to Washington, the Haitian example strikes fear into slave owners and sparks hope in abolitionists. Within decades, Britain and the United States outlaw the transatlantic slave trade, a decision Haiti's revolution hastened by frightening the world into recognizing that oppressed people will not remain oppressed forever. The Haitian Revolution, born of blood and fire, thus advanced global freedom more positively than many so-called enlightened European deeds, forcing nations to reckon with the hypocrisy of liberty for me, but not for thee. But while Haiti stands as the boldest testament to Black resistance, countless other acts of courage flicker through the age of slavery. Some occur even within the oppressor's wars. Each uprising, whether it ends in triumph or tragedy, fortifies a legacy of resilience. Time and again, they show that Black people are not passive subjects of history, but active architects of it, championing ideals of justice long far ahead of their time. Meanwhile, for millions still bound in chattel slavery, daily survival itself becomes an act of quiet revolution. On plantations in the American South, enslaved Black farmers innovate techniques to cope with harsh conditions. They apply African agricultural knowledge, like new ways to cultivate rice in the Carolinas or raise indigo and cotton more efficiently, critical contributions to the very economies that oppress them. In secret, they practice skilled crafts, ironworking, carpentry, weaving, keeping alive technologies they will later use as free citizens. Enslaved women serve as healers, using traditional herbal medicine, some remedies containing active ingredients akin to modern drugs like aspirin, to heal both Black and white alike. It's a cruel paradox. Even as white enslavers claim the fruits of Black labor, they also rely on Black expertise, whether in tending horses or curing ailments. Slavery is an atrocity with no silver lining, but the enslaved find ways to assert their humanity and ingenuity despite it. They encode secret messages for escape in spirituals, those soulful songs that carry hope on every note. By humming "Wade in the Water" or following the drinking gourd by night, enslaved people pass along practical navigation tips for those daring to run north. Families torn apart by auctions create new kinship networks in quarters, raising each other's children and sustaining cultural memory from Africa. In these ways, Black people lay the groundwork for their community's survival and future success. Fast forward in time, we now arrive at the Civil War, propelled in part by such acts of Black bravery and initiative, which will officially abolish American slavery. By 1865, the 13th Amendment is law and 4 million souls are free. It is a staggering leap forward for human rights, achieved through the blood, sweat, and intelligence of Black people. Freedom, however, is only the beginning of a new battle. As the smoke clears, the United States enters an era of Reconstruction, and Black Americans strive to build the lives so long denied to them. Remarkably, within just a few years, they are holding public office, founding businesses, and establishing schools across the South. In 1870, Hiram Revels, the son of free Black parents, is elected the first Black U.S. Senator, taking the Mississippi seat once held by Confederate President Jefferson Davis. An incredible historical irony. Black legislators like Revels and Robert Smalls, a former slave who hijacked a Confederate ship to freedom, pushed for public education, equal rights, and economic opportunity. Their progress is soon violently opposed by white backlash, but the brief era of multiracial democracy in the 1860s to 1870s showcases African Americans' capacity to lead and govern when given the chance. Simultaneously, Black communities create their own flourishing institutions. They build churches that will anchor civil rights struggles for generations. They start mutual aid societies and colleges. For example, the Tuskegee Institute, founded in 1881 by Booker T. Washington, itself a product of Reconstruction-era possibilities. It's at Tuskegee that a Black scientist named George Washington Carver will soon make groundbreaking innovations in agriculture, proving that Black advancement isn't just social and political, it's scientific and economic too. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, we see Black entrepreneurship reach inspiring heights. Madam C.J. Walker, born Sarah Breedlove in 1867 to formerly enslaved parents, embodies this spirit. Suffering hair loss in her young adulthood, Walker develops a line of hair care products tailored for Black women. She starts by selling her wonderful hair grower door to door and training an army of saleswomen in what she calls the Walker method. Through relentless travel, demonstrations, and marketing savvy, Madam Walker builds a booming cosmetics empire. By 1910, she owns a factory and a beauty school in Indianapolis. By 1918, she is celebrated as America's first female self-made millionaire of any race. It's a staggering accomplishment in an era when both sexism and racism run rampant. Walker's success creates jobs for thousands of Black women, giving them financial independence decades before such opportunities are common. Moreover, she uses her wealth for philanthropy, funding scholarships, charities, and anti-lynching campaigns. In a time when white robber barons dominate industry, often with ruthless tactics, Madam Walker's rise stands apart as a positive model of capitalism, built on community uplift and empowerment. At a fancy gathering, she once famously declares, "I am a woman who came from the cotton fields of the South. I have built my own factory on my own ground." Her voice rings with pride not just for herself, but for her people's progress. Black excellence permeates virtually every field as the 20th century begins. In literature, the grandson of enslaved Virginians, Alexander Pushkin's great-grandfather was African, and Pushkin, in early 19th century Russia, penned masterpieces that founded modern Russian literature. In France, the 1800s brought us Alexandre Dumas, a man of African heritage, who authored swashbuckling classics like The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo. Many readers assumed Dumas must be white, but he was proud of his black ancestry and took inspiration from his Haitian-born father, a general known as the Black Devil in Napoleon's army. The revelation that these beloved novels flowed from a black pen challenges old prejudices and proves that talent knows no color. In classical music, composers like Samuel Coleridge Taylor, an Englishman of Sierra Leonean descent, captivate Edwardian audiences with choral and orchestral works, earning the nickname African Mahler. And across the Atlantic in the 1910s, Harlem, New York, is sowing the seeds of a creative explosion, one that will bloom in the 1920s and 1930s as the Harlem Renaissance, a dazzling surge of black literature, art, jazz, and political thought. In a cramped Harlem apartment, a young poet named Langston Hughes scribbles lines by lamplight about rivers deep and mighty, connecting the African Nile to the Mississippi. And in Chicago, Louis Armstrong blows his trumpet in a way no one has heard before, laying the foundation for jazz. At that point, black culture now stands ready to burst forth and sweep the world. Yet even as lights shine on black stages, shadows loom. Segregation, discrimination, and racial violence persist. It is now a summer day in 1936 and the world's gaze turns to Berlin. Swastika banners drape the Olympic Stadium, and Adolf Hitler watches from the stands, eager to showcase Aryan athletic supremacy. But on the track, a black American sprinter named Jesse Owens crouches at the starting line, his expression calm and determined. The gunfires. Owens explodes down the lane, muscles coiled and flying. He doesn't just outrun the other competitors, he leaves Hitler's racially biased myth in the dust. Owens wins 4 gold medals at these Berlin Olympics, dominating the 100 meters, 200 meters, long jump, and relay. Each time he mounts the podium, he salutes the flags of nations that still treat him as a second-class citizen. Back home, yet he holds his head high. German crowds, initially hostile, are soon cheering this graceful champion. Owens' triumph is more than personal glory. It's a devastating blow to Hitler's propaganda. Hitler pointedly refuses to shake his hand, but the message is clear to millions worldwide. A black man is the fastest, the strongest, the best, and no hateful ideology can negate that truth. In that electrifying week, Owens, through sheer excellence, does more to discredit white supremacist theories than any speech or pamphlet could. His achievements foreshadow an era where black individuals will routinely prove themselves equal or superior in arenas once thought exclusive to whites, from sports and science to leadership. The Second World War soon engulfs the globe, and black contributions become pivotal to victory and technological progress. On the front lines in Europe and the Pacific, African American soldiers fight with valor even as they serve in segregated units. In a sky filled with buzzing fighter planes, the Tuskegee Airmen, America's first black military aviators, distinguished themselves as an elite squadron escorting Allied bombers. Flying red-tailed P-51 Mustangs, these pilots complete mission after mission with an outstanding record, disproving doubts about their skill. White bomber crews, once skeptical, begin requesting the red tails for protection. By war's end, the Tuskegee Airmen have destroyed or damaged over 400 enemy aircraft and earned countless medals, playing a crucial role in securing Allied air superiority. Simultaneously, on the seas, a black mess attendant named Doris "Dory" Miller becomes an unexpected hero during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. He mans an anti-aircraft gun on the USS West Virginia, downing enemy planes despite having no formal gunnery training. Miller's bravery earns him the Navy Cross, and he becomes a symbol of African Americans' right to fight and die for a country that still denies them basic rights. These warriors return home resolved to claim the freedom they helped defend. Behind the battlefields, black brilliance also fuels the war effort in laboratories and factories. Shortages of manpower open new industrial jobs to black workers, and they excel despite discrimination. In the hidden labs of the Manhattan Project, the often overlooked black scientists and technicians contribute to crucial research on uranium isotopes and reactor design. Meanwhile, a black inventor named Frederick McKinley Jones addresses a dire need: how to keep blood, medicine, and food fresh for troops overseas. In 1940, Jones patents the first reliable portable refrigeration unit for trucks. Soon, reefer trucks carry perishable supplies across long distances without spoilage, revolutionizing military logistics and later the grocery industry. Another black inventor and engineer, Lewis Howard Latimer, though from an earlier generation indirectly, contributes to wartime industry by having improved the light bulb decades prior. His carbon filament innovation made electric light practical and illuminated factories and homes around the clock. And crucially, when the war produces devastating injuries, it's the breakthroughs of Dr. Charles Drew that save countless lives. Drew, an African-American surgeon, pioneered modern blood banking on the eve of World War II. He discovered how to separate and preserve blood plasma so it could be stored and shipped long-term. Heading the Blood for Britain program in 1940, Dr. Drew organized the collection of over 5,000 liters of plasma for treating wounded British civilians and soldiers under Nazi bombardment. He then designed the system of large-scale blood banks and mobile donation stations for the American Red Cross, ensuring frontline medics in World War II had ready access to life-saving transfusions. By war's end, this black doctor's work had directly saved thousands and laid the groundwork for the blood transfusion practices that are standard today. Dr. Drew's story is bittersweet. He resigned when the military insisted on segregating blood by race, a policy he knew was scientifically absurd. Still, his legacy stands as one of the great humanitarian contributions of the 20th century, an advance in medicine born from black intellect and compassion. As soldiers return and the Cold War dawns, America undergoes an internal reckoning. Black veterans who fought for freedom overseas are no longer willing to accept subjugation at home. The civil rights movement gathers momentum, demanding that the United States finally live up to its founding creed. A defining moment arrives on a December evening in 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama. After a long day sewing in a department store, Rosa Parks, a black seamstress with quiet dignity, refuses an order to give up her seat to a white man on a segregated bus. Her arrest sparks a year-long bus boycott led by a young preacher, Martin Luther King Jr., which ends in victory as the Supreme Court strikes down Montgomery's bus segregation. This victory is not just a local triumph, it galvanizes activists nationwide. Dr. King emerges as a moral leader wielding nonviolence as his weapon. Under his leadership, and with countless brave souls, many of them ordinary black women and men, the movement scores one breakthrough after another. The sit-ins by black college students, the freedom riders braving mob attacks, the children facing police dogs and fire hoses in Birmingham. Each scene broadcasts around the world, an undeniable testament to black courage and the injustice they endure. In August 1963, the movement reaches its crescendo. Washington, D.C. swelters in summer heat as 250,000 people, black, white, and every hue, gather at the Lincoln Memorial for the March on Washington. From the steps where Abraham Lincoln's stony gaze overlooks the reflecting pool, Martin Luther King Jr. shares his dream. His baritone voice rolls like thunder. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. The crowd is spellbound, many weeping openly. King's words carry the hopes of generations. They echo beyond the National Mall, stirring hearts as far away as Ghana and India, where people struggling against their own injustices find inspiration. That moment, captured on film, becomes one of the most famous orations in history. King's dream is not just for black Americans, it's for all humanity to rise above hate. Within a year, the U.S. Congress passes the Civil Rights Act of 1964, outlawing segregation and discrimination. The next year, the Voting Rights Act ensures black citizens can no longer be stripped of their democratic voice. These laws rank among the most profound legislative achievements in American history, and they are won through the persistent positive pressure of black activism and moral leadership. Yet even as King speaks of his dream in 1963, another quiet drama is unfolding a few hundred miles away that same decade, one that literally sends humanity to the stars. In 1962, astronaut John Glenn is poised to be the first American to orbit the Earth, a critical moment in the space race. NASA's new electronic computers have calculated his flight trajectories, but Glenn, aware that machines can err, voices an extraordinary request: get the girl to check the numbers. The girl is Katherine Johnson, an African-American mathematician whose unmatched calculating skills have earned her respect in the segregated halls of Langley Research Center. Johnson had already calculated the trajectory for Alan Shepard's first flight and the launch window for the Apollo moon mission. Now, as the launch clock ticks, she recomputes the complex orbits and re-entry angles by hand. After verifying the figures, Glenn famously says, "If she says they're good, I'm ready to go." The mission proceeds flawlessly. Friendship 7 arcs into orbit and back, and America takes a giant leap forward in space, guided by the meticulous work of a black woman who, until recently, wasn't even allowed to use the same restroom as her white colleagues at NASA. Katherine Johnson and her black female colleagues, such as engineers Mary Jackson and Dorothy Vaughan, were nicknamed human computers. Their intellect and perseverance broke barriers quietly, well before their story became widely known. As the 1960s progressed, Black Americans continued to smash stereotypes in every arena. In music, the soul-stirring voice of Mahalia Jackson at the March on Washington lends spiritual power to the movement, while artists like Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles conquer the charts, proving black music is America's music. On the streets of Memphis and Detroit, the innovative sound of Motown Records, founded by black entrepreneur Berry Gordy, has people of all races dancing to the same beat, subtly eroding social barriers. In sports, the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali, floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee, an outspoken black Muslim who refuses to bow to anyone, even risking his title to stand up against the Vietnam War. His charisma and principle make him an icon of resistance and pride for oppressed people globally. In 1968, two black Olympians, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, win medals in the 200-meter sprint. On the podium in Mexico City during the U.S. anthem, they each raise a single black-gloved fist in a stark salute against racial injustice. The stadium falls silent, the image capturing both the anguish and the resolve of a generation. They are disciplined for this gesture, but years later the world will hail it as a courageous stand for human rights. Everywhere you look, black individuals are not only participating, but leading and transforming culture, sports, and science. And crucially, they are often doing so in a way that elevates conversations about equality and justice. By the end of the 1960s, legal segregation in America is largely dismantled. Colonial rule in Africa is nearly gone as dozens of new African nations have achieved independence, often with leaders inspired by the likes of MLK and Malcolm X, and black creativity is ascendant worldwide. But the struggle is far from over. Spring 1994. After centuries of colonial rule and decades of institutionalized racism, the nation of South Africa lines up for its first truly democratic election. The morning sun casts a golden hue on a scene once deemed impossible. People of all races stretching in lines miles long, patiently waiting together to vote. Some are elders who lived their whole lives under apartheid, now holding the hands of grandchildren born free. When the ballots are finally counted, a black man, once an enemy of the state, becomes president. Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison for opposing white minority rule, walks onto the inauguration stage in Pretoria, not in chains, but proudly wearing the presidential sash. With tears in his eyes, he takes the oath as South Africa's first black head of state. But Mandela's true greatness emerges in what he does next. Instead of revenge, he calls for reconciliation. He invites his white jailers to the ceremony as honored guests and smiles as he shares power with former adversaries. "Let us build a nation of justice and peace," he declares to throngs of cheering citizens. Under Mandela's leadership, South Africa establishes a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a revolutionary approach urging perpetrators of apartheid's crimes to confess and victims to forgive, seeking healing over retribution. This act of magnanimity captures the world's imagination. Mandela, having already shared the 1993 Nobel Peace Prize with the last apartheid president for their joint effort in ending the old regime, solidifies his reputation as an icon of moral leadership. He shows that a black leader, far from the racist caricatures of the past, can exemplify wisdom, restraint, and visionary guidance more positively than many leaders who preceded him. Meanwhile, in the United States, another seemingly unthinkable milestone approaches. It's a chilly night in November 2008, and in Chicago's Grant Park, a joyous crowd of all backgrounds gathers, spilling onto downtown streets. They are cheering one name, Barack Obama. The son of a Kenyan scholar and a white American mother raised in humble circumstances, Obama shatters a profound barrier by being elected the first black president of the United States. As he walks on stage with his young family, many in the audience openly weep, aware that they are witnessing history. In his victory speech, Obama invokes the journey of a 106-year-old black voter named Ann Nixon Cooper, who was born into a time of lynchings and denied rights, and who has now lived to help elect a black president. The symbolism of Obama's election reverberates worldwide. Here's a black man leading the most powerful nation on earth, an idea that once seemed beyond fantasy, and he brings with him a message of hope and change that inspires millions far beyond America's shores. Whether one agrees with his politics or not, President Obama's calm, intellectual, and compassionate demeanor offers a sharp contrast to the often divisive leadership seen elsewhere. His administration's achievements, from navigating a global financial crisis to expanding healthcare access for over 20 million Americans, showcase effective governance and empathy in action. In the realm of science and technology, the late 20th and early 21st centuries see black innovators reaching new frontiers. In 1983, Guion Bluford becomes the first African-American in space, and in 1992, Dr. Mae Jemison follows as the first black woman to orbit the Earth. As the Space Shuttle Endeavour streaks into the sky with Jemison aboard, children everywhere see a new possibility reflected in her journey. On the ground, black engineers and inventors are making daily life safer and more convenient. The three-light traffic signal that keeps our intersections orderly, that was refined and patented by Garrett A. Morgan, whose 1923 innovation introduced the essential yellow caution phase to prevent crashes. Morgan also invented a gas mask prototype in 1914 that saved lives in disaster rescues. The home security systems protecting families today trace back to Marie Van Britten Brown, a black nurse who co-invented the first video surveillance and alarm system in 1966 when police response in her neighborhood was sluggish. Her patent laid the groundwork for modern CCTV and home alarms. Do you enjoy refrigerated food year-round? Thank Frederick McKinley Jones and his portable refrigeration unit for trucks, patented in 1940, that revolutionized the preservation and distribution of food and medicine. Even something as ubiquitous as the personal computer has critical contributions from black minds. Mark Dean, an engineer at IBM, co-designed the architecture for the first PC and led the team that developed the color PC monitor and the gigahertz computer chip. These examples clearly show that black contributions in technology didn't stop with Carver or Drew. They only accelerated, powering the engines of modern innovation. Black artists and cultural figures continue to shape global culture in powerful ways. Consider music. By the 21st century, the beats and rhymes of hip-hop, born in the Bronx in the 1970s, have become the lingua franca of youth from Lagos to London to Tokyo. Hip-hop, created by black and Latino teenagers with turntables and poetry, grew into a multi-billion-dollar global industry and an influential art form, driving fashion trends, new slang, and even social movements. Its global popularity is a direct continuation of earlier black musical genius. Jazz, blues, rock and roll, R&B, reggae, gospel, these are all gifts of the black experience to the world, the foundation of popular music across the planet. By the 2000s, genres like Afrobeats from West Africa joined the global mainstream, while hip-hop remains one of the most consumed music genres worldwide. From the syncopated rhythms of Louis Armstrong's trumpet to the empowering anthems of Beyoncé, black artists have scored the soundtrack of modern life. They've used their platforms to challenge injustice. Think of Bob Marley singing for unity and freedom in Jamaica, or Kendrick Lamar rapping about racial trauma in America and winning a Pulitzer Prize for it. Through music as well as literature and film, black voices have told stories that educate and move global audiences. Novelist Toni Morrison, the first black woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, spun lyrical, haunting tales that forced readers to confront the legacy of slavery and the power of love and community. Filmmaker Spike Lee and later Ava DuVernay brought black perspectives to the big screen with uncompromising honesty, influencing cinema around the world. And who could have imagined back when Hattie McDaniel wasn't allowed to sit with white peers at the 1940 Oscars despite winning Best Supporting Actress, that by 2023 a black woman, Viola Davis, would achieve the rare EGOT, the Grand Slam of entertainment encompassing an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony? Bit by bit, these achievements chipped away at old narratives and built a new, richer narrative of shared human culture. Still, the march of progress is not linear or without setbacks. Inequities persist in education, housing, health, and justice systems. But Black individuals and organizations continue to lead the charge for reform. In 2020, the cry Black Lives Matter echoes from American streets to global capitals after the horrific killing of George Floyd, an unarmed Black man, under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer. The resulting protests, the largest in U.S. history, with solidarity marches on every inhabited continent, force a national and international reckoning with systemic racism. Black activists, often young and female, guide this movement, calling for accountability and the value of every Black life. Their efforts push police reforms, change public opinion, and catalyze conversations in boardrooms and governments about diversity and inclusion like never before. It's another example of Black Americans advancing the world's moral consciousness, as they have time and again, from abolition to civil rights to today. We now find ourselves in the modern day and age, a world transformed in countless ways by Black genius, sacrifice, and leadership. A world where a Black American commander, General Charles Q. Brown Jr., is appointed in 2023 to lead the entire U.S. military as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, while in Europe, a Black man, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus of Ethiopia, heads the World Health Organization and leads a global fight against a pandemic. A world where space exploration sees trailblazers like Dr. Jessica Watkins, who in 2022 becomes the first Black woman to complete a long-duration mission on the International Space Station, paving the way for future lunar missions. Where in the realm of finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala of Nigeria takes the helm of the World Trade Organization, the first African and first woman to do so, steering global trade policy. Black achievement has become so woven into the fabric of modern life that future generations may take for granted what once required extraordinary courage to pioneer. And yet, here we are, striving to remember the journey, how each generation of Black pioneers stood on the shoulders of those before. Through this video, we've seen Black excellence rise from the depths of oppression to the heights of accomplishment. At every step, Black contributions have often been made in spite of systemic barriers, not because of protection, privilege, or institutional support. And from that reality, we see an even larger truth. Black history is world history. It's the beating heart of the human story of progress. Having felt the sting of inequality, our community ended up fighting for systems that uplift everyone. Empathy born of suffering became innovation that benefits all. It's a powerful legacy and an ongoing gift. Let us move forward inspired by this history and committed as those before us to advancing humanity in ways that are fair, compassionate, and profoundly positive, just as our ancestors have shown us how to do. Thank you for watching and for celebrating Black brilliance with us. If this journey opened your eyes, add your voice in the comments, give the video a like, and share it with friends who need to hear these stories. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our videos that strive to honor the past and inspire the future. Until next time, keep learning, keep uplifting, and keep pushing humanity forward.